What is going on, Dallas Cowboys fans, Cowboy Nation? We do know, again, this week coming up will be Miami Dolphins, the 10-4 Miami Dolphins versus the 10-4 Dallas Cowboys on the road for the Dallas Cowboys. Another opportunity. We do know national media, local media, again, amongst the fans ourselves. Of course, the narrative now is starting to spin around that the Dallas Cowboys cannot win tough road games now because, again, we have shown the ability this season to put up points and to show some great defensive efforts, but at the same time, we cannot, for some reason, I guess you want to say, bottle all that up and put it together on the road. We're having these big explosions offensively, defensively, some special teams play at home, but on the road, it seems like things get a little bit up and down, turn into a bit of more of a roller coaster ride. And I'm going to say, to me personally, we can honestly go back to this game against the Miami Dolphins, and I think we're going to be able to look up and say the Dallas Cowboys implemented some things that kind of helped, I guess, springboard this team into the postseason, because we do know, again, this game against the Buffalo Bills, it was not a good one. Obviously, there were so many issues, and the way I kind of described it again was more specifically in a way of when it rains, it pours. There were some things I don't personally believe. In my personal opinion, I'll say again, I do not believe there are things that are personally going to turn into some habits or just bad traits. We all have seen that the run defense can be up and down. And I believe we're going to have another tough battle this week because the Miami Dolphins do have some very capable runners in that backfield, led by Raheem Mostert, the former San Francisco 49er. A guy that, again, they're pretty much just using their weapons all over the place. And you're going to say an offense led by Tua Tagovailoa, they're able to get the ball in their playmakers' hands, and they're not wasting plays and opportunities when it comes to doing it. And so the Dallas Cowboys themselves, we're going to find ourselves with a little bit of an issue because, again, I believe Jonathan Hankins is still dealing with that ankle sprain. And again, it was kind of thought about, I guess, a few weeks ago that he potentially could have been prepared for a game like against the Miami Dolphins, but that does not seem to be the case due to not practicing, things like that. So the Dallas Cowboys are going to have to lock in. But I'm going to say the number one thing I feel like this team is going to do a much better job of is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. Dak Prescott, to me, is going to be able to be, I guess you want to say, put one of those bad taste games behind him. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys clinched the playoff berth last week. I believe the Falcons losing kind of clinched a guaranteed playoff spot. Of course, nobody was happy after the Buffalo Bills game, so it didn't really matter. So I'm sure Dak Prescott himself has pretty much a bone to pick with the rest of the league, because we do know everyone's kind of sitting and waiting on him to have one of those games. He kind of went about a month and a half span of just playing elite MVP type football. And I'm going to say, to me, again, I can go back to post game, what I spoke about in this game against the Buffalo Bills for Dak Prescott. I put that more on a Mike McCarthy type system, because what Mike McCarthy did not do, I feel personally, when you're playing against a team like the Buffalo Bills, we saw a lot of high safety zone coverage that they were trying to show in the Dallas Cowboys to not be able to give up some of those bigger plays. And instead of what I'm going to say, I guess you want to say similar game plan or approach to the game against the New York Jets earlier in the year. Again, another team with some great defensive talent on that side of the ball. And again, trying to take away some of the big plays. What we did was pretty much get the ball into our playmakers' hands as quick as possible. Let them get some of those yards after catch. And again, obviously going to the Buffalo Bills game, I feel like that would have been the perfect attempt at, I guess, trying to slow down some of the things that the Buffalo Bills are trying to do defensively. So Mike McCarthy should hopefully come into this game, I guess, with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, because now, of course, questions are going to start to add up, because we do know at the end of the season, the Dallas Cowboys have had some great success. We're talking about going from the regular season to division titles and things like that, and higher playoff seeding. But once you get to the playoffs, the Dallas Cowboys will always be judged on their playoff results. And now, again, everyone should know that at this point. Mike McCarthy was not brought here to win regular season games. So yeah, the 12-win seasons, they're looking good. They feel great. But at the end of the day, it's about much more than that. So I'm hoping Mike McCarthy can kind of just put some of those bad things behind him as well, whether it comes to, again, clock management, not knowing when to take the proper challenge, or just take the opportunity to throw that challenge flag. Again, one of those plays, Donovan Wilson kind of punches the ball out of Stephon Diggs' hands, and we're not able to throw the challenge flag in time before they can get the next play off. So some of these things, Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, more so obviously the defensive side of the ball when it comes to tackling and just staying disciplined. There are lots of guys that are going to be able to, take a step above their performance from last game, and now be able to show that the Dallas Cowboys are a team that you might want to really look out for. Obviously, Dak Prescott did not have a great game last week. I believe only about 21 completions, something like that, out of 34 attempts. I believe only 134 yards passing, no touchdowns, one interception. Again, just a forced ball towards the end of the game, so it wasn't anything that was within the flow of the outcome of the game. But again, it's a game that Dak Prescott, I'm sure, wants to put completely behind himself. You do know at this point, we're not going to be seeing Dak Prescott judged on an MVP level again, because we do know a lot of those awards are going to be national media based, and we do know Dak Prescott can never afford any slip ups when it comes to, I guess, comparing some of the talent of some of these other quarterbacks around the league. Now, you can talk about Dak Prescott, I believe, still sitting in the top 6, 7 in passing yards right now. I believe he's second in the league behind Brock Purdy with 29, and Dak Prescott has 28 passing touchdowns right now with a 7 interception, 28-7 ratio. Dak Prescott is still in good hands. We're talking about, I believe Mike McCarthy is going to get back on track this week. But now, at this point of the I just want to say this juncture of the season, you're not going to see any more of the benefit of the doubt, because we do know this is the last 3 games of the season. The Dolphins, the Lions, and the Washington Commanders. That game could have some stipulations. We don't know what exactly is going to be the importance of that Commanders game. It's going to all depend on what the Philadelphia Eagles do, the 49ers, some of these other teams. So the Dallas Cowboys are going to be able to take care of business. And I feel like Dak Prescott is not anybody that we have to worry about. Let's start there. At the end of the day, of course, the fan base wants to win, and you have the guys that believe in Dak Prescott as the quarterback of this team. You have the people that don't believe in him, and you have the ones that are somewhere in the middle, and you just kind of want to wait and see. You give them the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully some of these improvements will not, again, go to waste. Because we can say last week was one of those games where it got ugly pretty fast. And I guess you want to say ugly in the sense of where mistakes were happening. And all of a sudden, one side of the ball can't really make up for the mistakes on the other side of the ball. And next thing you know, game's getting out of hand, and it's bad weather. Let's be clear. So like I said, Dak Prescott was kind of playing with his hands tied behind his back a little bit last week, in my personal opinion. The weather did not help, obviously. And again, the system is not the approach I guess we should have taken in that game. And maybe, again, we're talking about 2020. Everything is always hindsight. View is always 2020, but again, this is not anything I feel like Dak Prescott is going to bring into this week. I can see a 3-touchdown game this week, because it depends on what the Dallas Cowboys defense chooses to do. This could be a shootout, and do not be surprised if it is under any, I guess, stretch of the imagination. But I feel like we have a quarterback in Dak Prescott that can lead us to a victory in a game like that. Obviously, like we go into every single week, and we're saying you at least want to establish some sort of a run game. I'm not ever looking at the Dallas Cowboys to be a major running team, but again, I just want us to run enough and efficiently enough that, again, it's just more of a weapon that we can kind of use to throw the opposing defense, excuse me, off balance a little bit when they start to, I guess, get very comfortable with our passing game. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb goes over last week once again, also another 100 catch season for him with 103 catches now on the season. I believe over 1,300 receiving yards, 8 touchdown catches. CeeDee Lamb is a guy I'm hoping that we can continue to just ride going into the postseason, because again, I don't want to see us kind of picking and choosing and falling back into those, I guess you want to say, those mixes that we were kind of the mixed results that we're having of results of coming to when it comes to CeeDee Lamb early on in the season. Again, not really being able to force the ball to him. And when I say force the ball to CeeDee Lamb, I don't mean necessarily you're taking deep shots to CeeDee Lamb overly, repeatedly, slants down the middle of the field. I'm talking about percent. I guess you want to say, excuse me. Essentially, just make sure you're getting him involved early and often. It could be a couple screens. I saw last week there were so many opportunities that we could have kind of used the Buffalo Bills' defensive aggressiveness against them, and we did not take those opportunities. I can see CeeDee Lamb again just coming out of this game, a few quick, I guess you want to say, wide receiver screens. He smokes screens, and again, just get him involved early, because he is one of those players I would liken to the mindset of a Dez Bryant. When you get CeeDee Lamb, I guess you want to say, involved as early and often as you can, that's usually where you start seeing those results really paying off in that third, fourth quarter of games. So this is going to be one of those opportunities. Also, I want to see Jake Ferguson stay involved in this offense. Again, I can say it and say it and say it, but at the end of the day, this is literally going to be looked up as, I guess you want to say, those scrimmage games. And I don't mean scrimmage as in the difficulty, as if the Miami Dolphins are not a very good and capable team. Again, they still have 10 wins. They're sitting at 10-4 right now, as well as the Dallas Cowboys. But the Miami Dolphins, the Detroit Lions, the Washington Commanders, potentially, these should be games that Dallas Cowboys are looking to just get better at and master all the things that we're looking to hopefully be able to use and throw at teams in the playoffs. And again, if you're going to say you want to have some offensive success, I'm going to to say, excuse me, this is going to be the perfect situation to be able to get a guy like CeeDee Lamb. Again, Tony Pollard, very involved. I kind of talked about it a little bit. I just want us to be very efficient in our run game. Again, that just know that the defense knows that it is something that you have to kind of worry about. But you look at Tony Pollard, I believe sitting at 848 rushing yards on the season right now. Again, a guy that hasn't had any of those big splash games, one that kind of stand out or anything, but him, I guess you want to say he also just adding in also what Rico Dowdle can do, just the intensity that he runs with and the ferociousness that he does run with. It's a great mix up and a combination of different type of runners. But I want to see Tony Pollard get his hands on the ball a little bit more again in the screen game. I'm not going to talk about it again, but again, there were some opportunities for us to be able to use the Buffalo Bills aggressiveness against them, even with a guy like Tony Pollard, and I feel like we did not take those chances. So this week, again, Miami Dolphins, if you're going to say this potentially could be a shootout, the number one thing you cannot do is find yourself falling behind the gun. Because if you do, we saw what happened in the Buffalo Bills game. Sometimes if you're not handling your business on that offensive side of the ball, being able to keep that aggression, and again, what it does also is when our offense is obviously scoring, it opens up so much for what our defense can do, because now you're not really finding yourself in these situations where we're having to ask these defensive tackles in the interior of this D-line to be, I guess you want to say, major run stoppers. Because if you can get out to a lead somewhat, you can obviously force the other team to be able to throw the ball a little bit more. And we do know we have the guys that can get out to the quarterback. The Miami Dolphins themselves are dealing with a few injuries, and you can look at a guy like Tyreek Hill. I personally do not see a situation where you don't see Tyreek Hill out there playing. I know he did not play last week against the New York Jets, but this is a game where we do know a guy that's chasing that 2,000-yard receiving mark, as Tyreek Hill has spoken about many, many times. A guy sitting about 1,500 yards, I believe, right now, 12 touchdown receiving, about 97 catches. Tyreek Hill is we do know he's a special playmaker across the board, one of those generational type players. And I'm talking about because, again, you're not ever going to find many guys that can duplicate what he does. We're talking about with the speed, from the speed aspect, and a guy that can just pretty much take the ball on any given play and take it all the way to the house. That's always going to be scary to play against as a defense. So you're going to have guys like Deron Bland. You're going to have guys like, I'm going to say, obviously, a Stephon Gilmore. But more so, I'm going to say, this is a big, huge issue. And one of the things that kind of got us in a lot of trouble, I'm going to say, last week, Malik Hooker. That is one of, I guess I want to say, the main unsung heroes for this defense. Kind of doesn't get talked about a lot when you're talking about his capabilities and what he actually brings to this defense. But again, he's that settling presence as that center fielder. That guy, again, we have seen many times, if you're actually paying attention, Malik Hooker sets up a lot of these plays, I'm going to say, for some of these defenders that are making plays on the ball. You do know Deron Bland is a guy that can take the ball from away whenever given the opportunity. But a Malik Hooker, to me, is one of our most important, I guess you want to say, defenders when it comes to this pass defense. And not having him last week was a big issue, because we do say Jaron Kearse is one of those special players in the mindset, because to me that's what he brings is just, again, we do know a hard-nosed player, very physical at what he does, but he's also going to be that vocal leadership you need on the defensive side of the ball. But Jaron Kearse's skill set is not being kind of like that ball hawking, I guess, pass coverage stabilizing type safety, and that's what we had to use him a little bit as last week, speaking about Dan Quinn, and it got the Dallas Cowboys in a little bit of a trouble. I guess you want to say a little bit of trouble, because again, it's not one of those things that's really Jaron Kearse's strong suit. So hopefully we can get a guy like Malik Hooker back. I'm not really sure what exactly it was still is. I'm talking about maybe potentially. I'm not really seeing exactly why he wouldn't be out there, at least in these next couple weeks. I'm going to say if not this week, maybe next. But we do know. I'm saying he's just very important, because obviously Tua Tagovailoa leads the league right now in passing yards, a little more than 3,900 yards passing. We're also talking about a guy with 25 touchdown passes and only 10 interceptions, and then also throwing in just the weapons that they have across the board, because we talk about Tyreek Hill, but also they have Jalen Waddle, who I believe has about 71 catches, 964 yards, 4 receiving touchdowns himself. Again, a guy that can obviously just make plays opposite of Tyreek Hill. So if Tyreek is able to be out there, or even if he's not able to play against the Dallas Cowboys, speaking about Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle is going to be able to make plays because he has that potential and he has those abilities. Obviously, we're talking about a guy that also that gets the ball a lot in their running game. Raheem Mostert, I spoke about a little bit. I believe almost sitting at 1,000 yards, not quite, but almost at 1,000 yards. I believe 20 total touchdowns on the season, 18 rushing. I believe another 2 through the air in the pass catching department. So we're going to have to find, again, that solid ground of being aggressive, but also staying disciplined. I'm going to say one thing is for sure. When you're getting into these very tight battles would be considered tight battles. We're talking about against two teams that are very capable in this league, the Dallas Cowboys and Miami Dolphins this season. You're going to be able to say, where exactly are you going to be able to find those splash plays? And we can talk about all the time, Micah Parsons, he's a great weapon on the defensive side of the ball. We already know that goes without saying, but I personally want to see Dan Quinn use a little bit more nuance when it comes to using a piece, I guess a major chess piece like a Micah Parsons. Use Micah Parsons. I don't want to see him just consistently being sat down there on the D end, I guess, positioning, because one thing is for sure, we watch teams. Micah Parsons, he's very aggressive, obviously. He has all the capabilities and the talents in the world, out of this world talent, but what you're seeing teams do now more, especially when it comes to the running game, is running at him, because now you can just throw multiple bodies on him, and then at the same time try to force him to have to fight through that and keep the ball away from other guys. And one thing we're seeing for sure, I'm going to say for certain right now, is the Dallas Cowboys are not going to be able to find themselves anybody's going to make excuses for them. I want to see Dan Quinn not be as predictable when it comes to how we're using Micah Parsons. I can honestly say the best, I just want to say one of the best skill sets Micah Parsons does have is his versatility. So if you're going to be smart as Dan Quinn, move him around. Sometimes we're not necessarily asking Micah Parsons to be in pass coverage, but put him back. We want to see him at the Mike linebacker position every now and then. Swap him to the other side. I want to see him used a little bit more, again, just as a versatile piece that he is, and not get so hunkered down on just being a DN. Because Micah Parsons, again, I'm sure he wanted to make more plays in that Buffalo Bills game, and I'm going to say right now, it wasn't really a good game for him. He had a certain couple plays here and there, but if you're talking about a guy like Sean Merriman, former All-Pro with the San Diego Chargers from years ago, a guy that I guess he has the notion he speaks about that he also believes a guy like Micah Parsons should be used around, because again, he's obviously not getting these holding calls. He's not getting the benefit of the doubt when it comes to, again, the ability that he does have to make these plays and getting the calls that come with it. He's not getting those. So if you're Dan Quinn, you're going to have to employ different adjustments. You're going to have to employ different, I guess you want to say, a different mindset. Because yes, at the end of the day, Micah Parsons can beat anybody one-on-one, but the defense is much bigger than that. You need guys playing on on a chain and being able to make plays all together as one. So keep getting some of these other guys involved, I'm going to say, because obviously this is going to be a game I'm going to potentially be able to see where you have some of those other guys who are going to be the ones to make those plays on the defensive side of the ball. Because if we're going to beat the Miami Dolphins, name of the game is going to be stopping their pass, because it's such a big attack, and also not forgetting about the run. We do know that's for sure, but you cannot let their passing game get hot, because once they start rolling and Mike McDaniels has them on one page and they're all in sync, we're going to find ourselves in trouble, because we have now seen our interior is somewhat, I'm going to say, shaky. So if you're allowing the Miami Dolphins to be able to consistently just keep their running game involved, we could see another game of issues. So continue to just get better. Continue to employ different nuances if you're Dan Quinn. That's the name of the game, because we do have playmakers. You're talking about some guys that all over the field, and maybe not your prototypical playmakers in that sense, but we do have guys like Donovan Wilson. We do have some Marquise Bells. We do have some guys, again, that can make these splash plays here and there when they're called for. But if you're going to unlock this defense's, I guess you want to say, fullest potential, having Micah Parsons being the most dangerous weapon on this team is exactly how you're going to do it. We are going to have to see exactly who plays for both teams in this game. Again, there are a few guys on the injury report for both squads. But on the defensive side of the ball for the Miami Dolphins, real quick, obviously, you're going to have to contend with a guy like Jalen Ramsey. We know at this point, Jalen Ramsey, I'm not sure he really shadows many times anymore, but you're going to see a Jalen Ramsey potentially be able to be matched up with a CeeDee Lamb in certain junctions of the game. And that's going to be very big. Also, for the defense of the Miami Dolphins, they have Bradley Chubb leading the team with about 9.5 sacks, I believe. You also have tackle Zach Saylor, I believe, has 8 sacks already. We're talking about from that position. They have some guys that are going to be able to make some plays. Jalen Phillips, I believe, has having a solid season for them on the defensive side of the ball as a pass rusher. So we're going to see if the Dallas Cowboys are serious. This O-line for ourselves, I'm going to speak for the Cowboys, has got to stay healthy. Zach Martin, losing him last game, now dealing with a quad injury. I'm not really sure if he's going to be back this week. I can see he would. I think Mike McCarthy spoke about that he potentially thinks he could be back this week. But again, how healthy is he going to be? I don't really need a 65%, 70% Zach Martin, although that is still a very capable player in this league by Zach Martin standards. But I don't want to see him being more banged up than absolute necessary. I believe this could be a week of TJ Bass if Zach can't go fully healthy, at least somewhat, that to be able to see a guy like TJ Bass get another opportunity. But I believe Tyron Smith, is dealing with some injury right now, some injury issues. Maybe, I don't know, if sure it's a back injury or whatever it is, but I know he has not really practiced much lately during the week just to keep him healthy. So Tyron Smith is going to be very important to this team. Zach Martin, obviously, this offensive line, because that's what pretty much helps Dak Prescott be able to progress through all his reads and continue to make some big plays for this offense. So we're going to see if the Dallas Cowboys are what we believe they could be. Of course, a lot of people are going to be some naysayers now. You're going to be very pessimistic after that showing against the Buffalo Bills, and I can't blame anyone if that is the case. So continue to lock in, continue to keep trusting what your eyes are showing you. I personally think this Dallas Cowboys team is completely different this year. And of course, we talk about that all the time, whatever different is. But this team specifically, I feel like they have a little bit more readiness and togetherness. And I feel like that's exactly what's going to help this team be, I guess you want to say, be exactly what they believe they could be and reach those potential goals. So as always, I appreciate you guys for all the support. Once again, the Dallas Cowboys will be facing off against the Miami Dolphins on Christmas Eve, December 24th. So I hope you guys are having a great time with your family, friends, your loved ones, whether you're by yourself, whatever it is. I hope it's a great holidays for you. I hope the Dallas Cowboys can pull off this win. I hope you guys are able to witness a win and a great showing by the Dallas Cowboys against this Dolphins team. So again, as always, I appreciate you guys for all the support. I'm going to say the likes, the comments, the subscriptions, all that good stuff. Go ahead and continue to keep subscribing to the channel. We're going to continue to keep growing. I appreciate you guys. As always, happy holidays. And as always, go Cowboys.